Today we're going to be looking at a highly requested fixed angle system, the Xarilk fixed angle Gen 2. Now I have no idea how to say that, and that's the last time I'm going to attempt it. Now I will leave a link to this down in the description below where I purchased this with my own money. And in fact, anything that's purchased through that link does really help in supporting these self-funded reviews. Now for a fixed angle system, this thing is coming right in at about $100. So I lied. The Gen 2 system that you are seeing here, which I bought for around $100, is now $80. Now they do have a $100 Gen 2 version, which I'll talk about in a second. But that is one problem with some of these Amazon items, is that they are constantly changing prices and what's included in the packaging. But again, I'll talk about this a little more in a second. Which, by the looks of it, seems like a fantastic value. Now remember, nothing in life is free. So when you do move to a much lower price point, you are going to be giving something up that a lot of other more expensive fixed angle systems are going to have included, or are simply better engineered. So what are those things? Well, let's take a look at what I found. Now, first off, this system does indeed work. You absolutely can get razor sharp knives with the system fairly easily. Overall, it's a very solid system for the vast majority of knives. The only knives that you may have trouble with is very small knives and larger stuff, simply due to the lack of blade support with the single clamp. Now, speaking of the clamp, I did have some major trouble right off the bat with the clamp not holding any of the blades that I put in it securely. They all had some major wobble back and forth, which changes the angle and makes this system completely useless. And it didn't matter how tight I tightened the clamp. They wouldn't hold anything securely. Now, I messed around with it for over an hour straight out of the box and didn't sharpen a single knife. That is until I decided to lubricate the clamp. Now this did fix the issue, as I believe the screw was binding in the clamp as the clamp flexed, preventing the clamp from tightening as tight as it should. Now once lubricated, I was able to tighten everything down very securely. Just keep this in mind if you first get this system, and it won't hold any blades securely. Now the next flaw that I have with this system is the angle adjustment. It's very complicated for what it is, and with that complication, you don't even get those fine adjustment indicators that you really do need on a fixed angle system. Now the easiest way to explain this flaw is to just show you in real time. Now I apologize for this segment, but I don't really have any other way to explain this other than to just take you through the entire process and show you. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how to adjust this angle from, say, a 20-degree indicated angle to a 25-degree indicated angle as indicated by this angle guide on the side of the system. So right now we're at 20 degrees, and what we need to do to adjust to 25 is, you would think that all you would have to do is adjust this up to the 25 indication mark and you would be set. But you would be wrong, because you still have to come back here and adjust your guide rod back to level. And the only way to do that is with the included bubble level back here, which isn't super accurate. There's a lot of space between the bubble and the two lines, so essentially you're just eyeballing this. So that right there is around the 25-degree mark. So basically any angle that you go to on here is around that angle. It's not going to be exact. The only way to get this to the exact angle that you want within a degree is to get an angle finder. You don't have single degree indication marks on this system, and there's no way to do that without an angle finder like this. Now this is an added cost. These things are like 20 to 30 bucks, so just keep that in mind. And in my mind, that kind of takes one of the biggest advantages of a fixed angle system completely away, in that I've shown here on the channel before how sensitive some knives can be to a single degree of angle adjustment. So not having the ability to adjust 1 degree at a time is a big disadvantage with this system, unless again you get one of these. I don't know why it's this complicated. This could be fixed. Maybe it's fixed with the Gen 3. I don't know. I haven't really looked at that. But this needs to be fixed. We don't need double adjustments here. All we need are angle indications by a single degree on this back guide rod clamp, and we can adjust a single degree at a time back here. Now we also have this adjustment up here as well, I don't know why we have double adjustments here, other than this may be a stone thickness compensator. So basically what that means is that if you are switching between thinner stones, like these resin bonded stones and these thicker stones, if you change the stone thickness, you're going to change the angle slightly. So what this can do is you set this angle down to your thicker stone and you lock this in place. Then you set your angle, and if you want to change to a thinner stone, all you'd have to do is come down here, you set your stone in here, you loosen this one angle guide here, and you set it down on top of the stone, and then that compensates for the stone thickness and your total angle doesn't change. It probably sounds really complicated, but it's not. What is, I think, complicated is the fact that this isn't fixed here. We don't need a double angle adjustment on this. Take this away like all of the other systems. And I'll give you a demonstration here. This is the KME, and to adjust the angle, you simply rotate this knob up and down, and you can do it 1 degree at a time. So there's 20 degrees. If I want to go to 21, I'm at 21. I don't have to mess around with bubble levels or angle finders or anything like that. So that is a consideration. That's something that you do need to take into consideration when you're looking at cheaper systems like this. So I will say that this whole angle adjustment thing is slightly more complicated than what we're discussing here, since the width of the actual blade you're sharpening also plays a role in the exact indicated angle. But my point is that this system can be simplified and more accurate than what it is. Now, the last thing that I want to discuss here are the stones themselves. Now, out of the box, you get a 320, an 800, and a 2000 grit stone. While they do work out of the box, I personally would change the grits, and I have some concerns about the longevity of these stones. Now, first, the 320 grit takes a fairly long time to profile after it's broken in, even on smaller knives. And you can almost completely forget about profiling Scandi grinds unless you have an hour per side to sit down and grind away, which most of us probably don't. So here's a 320 grit new out of the box, and after about 10 knives or so. We definitely lost some diamonds, and the stone has become much less aggressive. While this coarse grit still has plenty of life left, it doesn't have the cut I'd like to see in a coarse grit profiling stone. I would definitely like to see a much coarser profiling grit included with the system. The thing is that coarser grits are expensive, so this is just one of those things that you'll be giving up at this lower price point. In my opinion, I do believe that you will want to replace these stones relatively quickly unless you're sharpening only a couple of knives per month. Now, the 2000 grit stone is also a stone that I have concerns with. I only sharpened about a dozen knives with this stone, and it's already starting to show some significant wear. This is one problem with fine grit plated stones. Really, any grit beyond about 1200 grit or so will wear fairly quickly. Now, you can see some of the bare spots on this stone after a dozen uses or so. In contrast, we can compare this 2000 grit stone with the KME 1500 grit stone, which has seen hundreds of uses, and you can see those uses on a lot of the videos on my channel. You can see that the KME has plenty of diamond left on the surface. But this is a much more expensive, higher quality stone. Essentially, I believe if you're using this system a lot, you will have to replace this stone as well with a better quality fine diamond grit. Now, with all this being said, there is another Gen 2 with other coarser stones included. Now, I have not tested these stones, so who knows? But if they are coarser than what's included here, it's definitely worth the extra money for those stones if they're good quality. Like I said, it seems like the prices and what's included with these systems is changing daily, because I did not see this system when I purchased the one that I bought, and I probably would have purchased that instead. But anyway, I guess this review is worth something. So is this thing a good value with all of the things we mentioned earlier? Yes. I guess it is kind of a good value for $100. This will get you into the fixed angle system world, but I would look at this as more of a platform to build upon rather than an all-inclusive system. In my mind, in order to maximize your knife's performance, which you definitely want with a fixed angle system, you definitely want something that you can adjust your angle down to a single degree. Because again, as I've shown before here on the channel, 1 degree can make the difference between a chippy or rolly apex and one that's completely stable. And in order to do that with this setup, you need to add in the extra cost of an angle finder. Now also, if you're sharpening a lot of knives, you will definitely want upgraded stones. I really can't stress this enough. The stones on these systems are extremely important. And again, this will add to the overall long-term cost of this fixed angle system. So if we add the price of the angle finder at about $20 to $30 and the price of 3 higher quality stones, which can be very expensive, anywhere from $25 to $60+ per stone, you can see why it may be more ideal to save a little bit more money and buy a system with all of these things included. But again, if you're only sharpening a couple of knives per month, this is going to be a pretty good value if you don't care about all of that other stuff. Now, in terms of a percentage, what percentage of a more expensive system are you getting with this thing right here? I think that this is a solid 50%. So essentially you're getting 50% of the better systems at 25% of the price. Now that probably doesn't make any sense. I hope it does. And that's how I'm going to end this video. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.